Andy Johnson. We are looking at just a basic overview of some of these concepts found in Chapter 13. You see them right there. First of all, effective teachers plan. It creates more purposeful instruction and less downtime. You are doing something. What do you choose for your lesson? What topics? Well, usually you will have a curriculum, but you have choices within that curriculum upon which to focus. A science or math or social studies. And again, you decide. Good teachers take the curriculum and they enhance it. If you're teaching reading or writing, your students become the curriculum. You look at them and see what skills they need. As a teacher, you are making decisions. What you don't include is just as important as what you do include. Students don't learn simply by dumping information on them. You have to choose a little bit, and you know your students what they can understand in one lesson. Teaching is this: say a little bit, do a little bit. Give them some information, create an activity for them to activate or reinforce or manipulate that information. Now, you will have teachers' manuals, and these are good tools. They should be guides, not recipe. You need to enhance what's already there. Do not abdicate your responsibility as a teacher to teach what students need. Objectives in a lesson plan, they help you focus, create a more purposeful learning experience. Start, however, with a purpose statement. It's similar to what the chapter calls an objective. You simply say, what do you want students to learn? Students will learn about, insert topic there, or students will learn how to, insert topic there. Start with a purpose statement. Then you can put it into a behavioral objective. A behavioral objective is the behavior you would like to see as a result of learning. After learning, here are some examples. Students will be able to correct the answer. Students will be able to describe 3 important events. Students will be able to, students will demonstrate. Students will get 85. All right, we are describing a behavior that we would like to see. We can say yes or no if they accomplish it. All right, yes or no. Assessment. How do you know that students have learned? This is a description of how we will check for students learning. How do we know they understand? How do we know they can use the skill? I recommend that you write this last as you are preparing your lesson plan. You decide where you're going first, and then go back and look for your behavioral objective and assessment. It's a written description, usually 2 to 6 sentences, and a substitute teacher should be able to look at your lesson plan and replicate that. And you can stop the video and look at that example, that plan for assessing student performance. And again, 2 to 6 sentences, a narrative description of what will happen. There are a variety of types of assessment. Assessment doesn't always mean a quiz. Sometimes I can assess through a discussion. I can tell if students have got it. I can observe. I can get them doing projects or activities. Performances. Yes, quizzes are okay. Tests are okay. Tell me. Or an I learned statement or small group speeches. Again, when you are assessing, you are seeing if students have got it. And I tell my students, when you assess them, there's 3 students pointing back because it says, how good a job did I do at helping my students learn? Questions as part of a discussion must be planned. Doesn't mean you have to follow through. It doesn't have to ask them just as they are, but they should be inserted in. A good discussion is planned out. You're going someplace. You have a purpose. As you plan your discussions in your lesson plan, you should include both high level and low. Low level is burp it up. What do you think? What happened? What to tell me about? Describe that particular thing. And high level is what do you think about what might happen? All right? Questions for which you do not know the answer. So include a mixture of both. A discussion should not be an interrogation. It should be used to expand or extend thinking or get students to apply a concept. And when you have a question, you need to use wait time. Ask the question, enable students to process, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then call on them. If it's a really complex question, I write it on the board or say I'm going to ask this question and in about 4 minutes start thinking about it. Direct instruction as described. Now, it's a title for a specific method. It is direct instruction, but it is a model of instruction, and I like to call it a teaching strategy or a pedagogical tool that all teachers should have in their teaching toolbox, but it is not an approach. Direct instruction is good for low-level skills and concepts, but not for higher-level skills and concepts. And everyone uses it. All students need direct instruction at some times and some places. However, it tends to be overused in special ed, working with students with learning disabilities or intellectual disabilities. And if that's all you get, if you only get direct instruction on low-level skills and concepts, that's all you're going to learn. Direct instruction is a tool. It's a strategy. It should not be an approach or a method of teaching used exclusively. It's one strategy of many, and good teachers have lots of tools in their teaching toolbox. But to say I'm going to teach reading using direct instruction, that eliminates all the many other strategies and parts of reading instruction. And again, it is a strategy. Everyone believes that direct instruction should be used in times and places, but use that tool effectively. Now, parts and forms of what we call direct instruction may vary, but usually there's a behavioral objective, yes or no. Usually there's an overview where you tell students, today we're going to learn about. Usually there's some specific information. Usually there's some sort of scaffold where you can practice the learning with the student's guidance and you can see if they've got it. And usually there's some independent practice, all right? That's the most basic. However, you can complicate it up and make it much more complicated than it needs to be. Explanation, probe, periodic review, all right? Keep it simple, keep it simple. It is one strategy, adopt and adapt. Guided discovery, and again, it is a method. You create structure to enable students to discover all or parts of a concept or skill. Up front, they're messing about. It has to be planned with specific objectives and input. Guided discovery is not anything goes. You discover something, it takes planning. And usually the teacher delivers the input or instruction either around the guided discovery or after students have had a chance to mess about. It's based on our natural inclination to find out about the world. That should be to want to know or find out, not to what, an error. And again, it is a pedagogical strategy, not an approach or method. You should not use it exclusively. You should not use any type of strategy exclusively, but it is a powerful strategy to use. And again, this is described in more detail. The same with cooperative learning. It is a structured learning experience in which groups work together to complete a specific task. Cooperative learning. And it's not the same as go back in a group and do something. It takes planning. Each student has a role. It's interdependent. You sink or swim together. And again, you have to plan with this. Now, it takes more class time generally when you're doing a cooperative learning activity, but students learn more. They learn more deeply because the conversation that takes place enhances understanding. You have to describe something so your students understand. And again, it is a strategy, a powerful strategy, but not an approach or method that should be used exclusively. These are just some basic ideas. These are all described in more depth in other mini lectures.